Hi, are you networking or are you not working? That is what we're going to dive into today in this week's episode of Career Pro Tips. Such an interesting question. Can't wait to jump right in. If you love getting these weekly tips, don't forget to subscribe and like the videos. Welcome to Career Pro Tips by Life in the Green Room. Life in the Green Room is all about helping busy professionals who want more from their career. We provide action-oriented, tool-based plans and programs to help you take action and start driving your career where you want to go. Career Pro Tips is a weekly video series where we dive into one specific topic or question and give you strategies, tactics, and tips that you can apply right away if that's a topic that's really relevant to you. My name is Heather Green McLinn, and I'm the Vice President of Marketing at a Fortune 500 company. I have used these tips and strategies, and I have seen my peers, my colleagues, and my team use them. I know that they will help you start taking ownership of your career. Welcome to this week's episode of Career Pro Tips, number 38. Today, we're going to dive into the question of networking versus not working. I heard this question a couple of weeks ago, and I can't seem to get it out of my head for some reason. So I thought it must be a perfect topic to really dive into in an episode of Career Pro Tips. Myself, I have to really push myself to network more and kind of get myself out there. And so I found it very interesting to think about somebody who has that skill, but maybe they overuse it and they get to the point where they're not working because they're just networking so much. And so I really think it's important to think about that and find the balance. I think some people are probably on the other spectrum like me who need to push themselves and network a little bit more. But for those of you who maybe have slid too far, today we're going to talk about some triggers or things that may give you a signal or a red flag that you are over networking or not working, and then some things you can do to try to slide it back into a scale that's going to be more appropriate for you. So when I thought about this, I was like, okay, how do you get to realize that you are on the not working side of this scale? And so here are some things I think would be some indicators for you. If you have really long conversations all day throughout your day with your customers or with your colleagues, but you're not really getting anything productive done, and you seem to talk more about what's going on in your life and what's going on with your families and what's going on with the business at this high level, that could be an indication for you that you're on the other side of the spectrum. If you have a lot of relationships, but you don't have the kind of relationship where you can really lean on them when you want to get something done, when you need an order, when you're trying to get something across the finish line, like that might be an indication that, yeah, they love hanging out with you and they enjoy chatting with you, but they don't have that kind of really tight work bond relationship with you that you're looking for. Another thing that you might want to think about that could be a flag is if you are the first person everybody calls or runs to when there's some gossip or there's a new story, that could be an indication that you are on the side of over networking. There's a few other areas, but I think that if you find yourself going through your entire day, you don't really get a lot of work done, and maybe you're having a great time, but you don't feel like you're getting the results you want, maybe you are in this bank of over networking. The other thought that I had around maybe an indication for this is if you have the exact same circle of friends and colleagues and relationships for a really long time, like you're not expanding it out, you're not including anybody new in your industry, nobody new from the customer side, nobody new from your office, that may be another indication that, you kind of feel really comfortable with where you're at, but you're not pushing yourself to expand your network. So those are just a couple of tips to be thinking about if you have ever thought maybe I'm on the side of not working versus networking. And I just want you to kind of think about that. I just want to be really, really clear that I think networking is super important. In last week's episode number 37, I actually dove really deeply into 4 different types of work and how you categorize it, and one of those being interacting. And I think it's a super important part that sometimes people, especially introverts or somebody who's really focused on a big project or a deadline, they just want to put their head down and get the work done. They overlook that. So I do not want anybody to listen to this and say, oh my gosh, I have have to cool off on the networking. That's not a valuable part of my job. I need to just focus strictly on the tasks at hand. That is important, but networking is really a great opportunity to build relationships, get things done. You can become more effective. However, if you find yourself on the other side and you do think potentially you are not working, here's some tips to think about, maybe some ways to kind of scale it back down. I don't think that type of behavior is going to be something you turn off overnight. So I have 3 tips that maybe will let you look into it like gradually. My first tip is very simple. Set a timer on your watch, set a timer on your phone, and kind of start to narrow in the time frame so you don't just lose all of a day or something. So you can be chatting with somebody for 10 or 15 minutes, the alarm goes off or the buzzer goes off or your phone rings, just slowly get yourself retracted from the conversation and move on about whatever else you need to get done that day. The second tip I have is to really push yourself to have at least one work question or issue that you want to discuss in every interaction that you have with a colleague or a customer. So have that done ahead of time. Know in your mind that, hey, I need to chat with this person. And of course, I'm going to have a jovial conversation and talk about what's going on in their life. But I really need to get at least this one thing done, and push yourself to get that somewhat early in the conversation so you can make some progress on your work objectives as well. And the third thing I would recommend to try if you think you're on the not working side of networking is to expand your influence. So really give yourself a goal of like every week getting to know one new customer or one new person in your office or one new contact, somebody else in an industry group, to keep expanding that. So you really are, if that's a skill set you have, you are lucky because not everyone has that networking skill. So use it to your advantage and don't let yourself go too far on the extreme, but use it to the advantage to keep broadening the people that you know, and so you can kind of get new relationships and more relationships. So that's what I have for today on networking versus not working. I would love to know where you are on the spectrum and kind of how you deal with it. On either side, there's always things you can do to kind of get better. So leave a comment below and we'll talk to you next week. Here's to owning your career journey.